Well, China did engineer the biggest real estate bubble in human history. And they haven't fixed that or anything. They've just been kind of papering it over. And, there's really no way to fix something. I mean, Japan tried to fix theirs with, government spending plan after government spending plan. But since the 1990s, they have been hobbled by their real estate bubble. And China's kind of got the same thing going, except it doesn't have the advantages that Japan had back then to allow it to just keep kicking that can down the road. So they're going to have to deal with it pretty soon.
The Financial Survival Network. Now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, it's been quite a week. The economy just doing fine, even while Europe is slipping into recession, John, right?
Yeah, and it kind of happened by the back door because they revised past couple of months' data. And that's what put Europe in recession. The revisions did.
Retroactive.
Retroactive recession. Yeah, so they're technically in recession now, which gives the ECB a little bit of leeway, even though inflation is way above the ECB's target. If the EU is in recession, maybe that gives them their excuse to at least stop tightening and maybe go back to easing. We'll see, but I think the U.S. is maybe our recession or our revisions will put us in recession here too right now, because we've got a lot of weak numbers and some not so weak numbers, so it's kind of a mix. But maybe a lot of the strong numbers have to be taken away in the next couple of months, and then we'll see.
Well, look, I mean, honestly, if you look at the real rate of growth over the past 2 years, it hasn't existed. So therefore, all apparent growth is generated by inflation deflator, by it being incorrect. So when you really look at it, yeah, they could just up the inflation rate for the past 2 years because nobody cares, because that's in the past. We would be in a recession, and then we're ready to get out of it now, I guess.
Yeah, and when we were talking about recession before, I was talking about official recession where they admit it. But yeah, so many of these numbers are so bogus or so open to revision, because that's kind of their strategy now, at least in the U.S. I'm not sure it's done that way in other countries, but maybe. But the U.S. will put out a super favorable number and then revise it away over the next couple of quarters or months, or depending on the interval for the number. But nobody sees the revisions. So all anybody sees is the super positive headline number, and they're using that as a way to manage perceptions, even as things get worse and worse. So, I'm sticking with my prediction that we're in recession by year end, and that 6 months after that, the Fed is back to actively easing. So we'll see. But, I don't think it's really a hard get from here. We could easily tip over.
It's just a question of when the Fed is going to pivot. Some people say they're not going to, and they're just going to keep raising rates. But look, housing is in the gutter. Jobless claims are up. All of these things that we're supposed to figure out. And then if you look at China's exports and their imports, they're down the drain. I don't see how you can have a recession in China without the rest of the world feeling it at this point, John.
Well, see, the way it always works, if you go back to, for instance, 1999, 2000, or 2006, 2007, the Fed tightens, and it continues to tighten until the financial markets break, because it has no other way of knowing, whether it should still be tightening or not. It just watches the financial markets, and when they break, then it knows it's time to go back to easing. And so the same thing is happening now. The Fed is just raising interest rates, even though they say they're going to stop this month, but they're going to pause this month. They'll go back to raising again pretty soon. And they'll do that until something serious breaks. And there's a long list of things that can break here going forward. I mean, housing and commercial real estate and cars. And you saw the student loan thing, right? Where they're going to go back to making student loans payable now after 2 years of being free money. And A lot of the people who have student loans are the same people that are maxing out their credit cards to pay day-to-day expenses. So now dump a $300 or $400 bill for student loans on top of that life. And a lot of people are going to start defaulting on their credit cards or their mortgages or their car loans or whatever. And boom, we're in recession when that happens. So it could be that we're going to look back on the student loan thing as the trigger for the next recession. So not that it has to be, because there are lots of other things that could go wrong, but that could easily be one, because that'll hit consumer spending very hard, and it'll hit credit card debt, or it'll make credit card debt go up even further. So it's completely possible that we're already seeing the pieces being put into place that will cause the next recession.
It's amazing that every day I still get credit card offers. At the same time, while the whole thing's imploding, I guess the number, not that my credit's pristine or perfect, but I have nothing bad on it. They're still offering consumer credit to quote unquote worthy consumers.
Yeah, they don't even like us because we don't pay late fees or carry balances. The credit card companies make most of their money from balance interest and from late fees. And the groups of people who pay those things tend to be the most disadvantaged. In other words, the people who are so ignorant they don't know how credit cards work, or who are in such tough straits that they have no choice but to carry a balance, even though it charges them 23% a month interest, or generate a bunch of late fees because there are some months when they just can't pay anything. So credit card companies are, they're one step away from loan sharks. They are criminal enterprises. Let me just say that out loud. But they don't like us. They don't like people who are boring, who pay their balances off every month. So we don't make anything for them. They're actively hoping that they can trick us into high enough balances that we pop into that other category of people who have to carry the balance and generate late fees and stuff like that. So when they offer you a new credit card, Kerry, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take you above your manageable limit. Mm-hmm. And what I'm getting is a bunch of balance transfer offers. Oh, we'll only charge you 3% if you, and no thanks. I don't want to play, but yeah, and to the extent that they're extending more credit to people in those other categories, or they're pushing more people in our categories into those other categories, credit cards are going to be one of the big problems in the next recession, because there's already $1 trillion of credit card debt, so that's going to explode pretty soon, and you would think the credit card companies wouldn't like that and would actively try to get out of it, because then defaults spike. They lose a lot of money in a recession because the people they've been feasting on just say, screw it. I'm not paying these credit cards off, and take me to court. What are you going to do? I have nothing. Yeah.
I already have a rotten credit score. Well, yeah, it's funny because, they just want to get you hooked on easy credit. And then eventually you'll be paying 30%. That's like the rate now on carrying a credit card balance, because of the vagaries of our GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. It's like they reserve for the default up front, so they actually get to reduce their profits anyway, so less taxable profits. And then when things are bad, they just bump it up a couple of points, but they're still making money on it. And, I was in this world for a long time. Well, in the meantime, something's going on in China. They know it. Gold buying is up there. If you watch the videos, and, I think that there's the equivalent of Radio Free Europe and Radio Free Asia on YouTube. A lot of these channels seem to be like ultra nationalist, hate China channels, but there's enough truth in them to see that something very bad is happening in China now. Massive youth unemployment, massive defaults. They're on a mortgage strike, 4 million people. It's like the global economy, when it broke, it really broke for China, because they're just getting, unemployment is way up. I think they have a 30% youth unemployment rate. and these people are like living in these hovels so they don't have to pay rent. I mean, something is happening there that's really bad, John, that we don't even appreciate over here.
Well, China did engineer the biggest real estate bubble in human history. And they haven't fixed that or anything. They've just been kind of papering it over. And, there's really no way to fix something. I mean, Japan tried to fix theirs with, government spending plan after government spending plan. But since the 1990s, they have been hobbled by their real estate bubble. And China's kind of got the same thing going, except it doesn't have the advantages that Japan had back then to allow it to just keep kicking that can down the road. So they're going to have to deal with it pretty soon. And, it's not clear how you deal with something like that, because like you said, there are millions of people who already can't pay their mortgages, millions more who are living in subhuman conditions. And that they haven't even had the actual crisis yet. There's still a lot of ghost cities out there and empty buildings and people who have bought apartments, but the apartments aren't even being built anymore. So the somebody gets screwed somehow there, right? Somebody has to eat that loss. And it almost doesn't matter who eats the loss, because it has the same general effect on the economy. It's somebody who can't pay their bills going forward.
The people eat the losses will be the ones who are least able to afford it, just like in the United States. And maybe we're missing the boat. Maybe we should be setting up a resolution trust company in China to buy all these, to snap up all these defaulted mortgages and just wait for it to turn around. Or is it never going to turn around there? That's really the question.
We don't want those mortgages. Yeah. No, that would be a logistical nightmare to try to make sense out of what's coming there. But we got another kind of nightmare with commercial real estate here. There are a lot of buildings that are semi-empty and are going to have to be sold for half of their original price, and somebody has to eat those losses. It's not clear ahead of time who's going to eat the bulk of those losses, but it could be banks, could be hedge funds, pension funds, insurance companies, all the bondholders, the real estate bonds, the mortgage-backed security bonds, the CRE bonds. It's not clear who has to suffer the bulk of this, but it's probable that 5 or 6 different categories of big financial entities are really going to get smacked by this. And it's coming pretty quickly now. It's that whole bust is accelerating. So I think that's a second half of the year story that's going to have some hair-raising numbers. You should, if you don't already, interview Wolf Richter.
Oh yeah, I had him on a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, because
San Francisco, the biggest hotel company there, just did some jingle mail and sent the keys to their hotels to their lenders. And they say that the office buildings are trading at a 70% haircut. I was in Manhattan the past week, and look, there's tons of construction, so there's always traffic in Manhattan, but really it's empty. Like, used to be you'd walk out at lunchtime and there'd be like tons and tons of people milling about. I don't know if they're scared of getting mugged and they just don't go out of their office till they have to leave. But I'm telling you, that place is, you can't call it a ghost town, but it's definitely a bit spooky there.
So, Kerry, you were just in Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
And was it smoky when you were there too? So was it like a zombie apocalypse with empty streets and smoke everywhere?
I didn't stay up on the news, and I'm on the airplane in LaGuardia looking out, and it's this white all around. And the person says to me, "Look at that." I said, "Yeah." She said, "That's from the fires up in Quebec, in Canada."
Because you got out just in time. They closed the airports for a day or two.
Next day, I think LaGuardia is still closed, but Kennedy and Newark were supposedly open. But it was like this white, you never saw anything like it. I mean, it was pretty shocking.
See, you guys on the East Coast, you have your problems,
Mhm.
but that's not supposed to be one of them. That's supposed to be our problem over on the West or on the West Coast.
Yeah,
Because we lose like August every year now because it's just we're blanketed in snow or in smoke. But this is new for you. Yeah. Hopefully it's not a regular thing.
yeah. Well, it happened about 15 years ago, but not this bad. I don't remember it being this bad, but I couldn't figure out why my sinuses were like in total rebellion. When was I came back on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, but my sinuses were a mess. I'm like, what's going on? It must be some kind of allergy or something. It has an allergy to smoke, but the Tesla has got biodefense mode. So if you're going around in your Tesla, maybe you have to live in your Tesla for a week or two. You're going to be okay because it's got the HEPA filter and biodefense mode. So even if they do some bio warfare while they're at it, you'll be okay.
So you can just go out and sleep in your car if the smoke goes all the way down the East Coast to Florida. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny. My wife saw that. She's got a lot of chemical sensitivities and stuff. So this is a real thing for her. And she saw that in the Tesla pickup truck. And we had to have a long talk. I had to actively talk her out of not going out and buying a Tesla pickup truck because she was envisioning getting into the bed, closing that steel door, and turning on the filter. Combine that with bulletproof windows, and I'm just about sold.
And
that's
bulletproof door panels. It's hardened rolled stainless steel that'll stop 45 caliber bullets from entering the cabin. So, hey. Did you catch this article? 29% of young Americans are okay with government surveillance devices in the home. Now, this is 1984. Remember the screen in 1984? And they monitored everything and the thought police and everything else. I mean, where did these kids go to school? And it's nuts.
Yeah, this is truly terrifying because these guys, part of it is, like you said, where they go to school, because I think there's not a fundamental understanding of the First Amendment and of limited government and what dictatorship truly means. Or, let's say a 22-year-old who has no sense of history, couldn't find two different countries on a map. And they think, well, what the hell? Let's have the government spy on those other people's homes to keep them from doing bad things. They don't realize that will come back to bite them at some point. But one other way of looking at this is that every generation of kids has to find a way to freak its parents out. In other words, to make that dividing line between me and my parents.
It's working.
It's working. Half of them are trans and the other half are fascists. It's and there's a Venn diagram where some of them are both trans and fascist now. So yeah, it's they're absolutely succeeding in freaking their parents out.
Oh my goodness. Well, I had a great discussion with my son-in-law where basically, without getting too into it, I think you're allowed to say stuff now about vaxxing and COVID and elections. But basically, he said that I was right about everything about the health issues we had for the past couple of years. And he himself had an ailment for over a year that he couldn't say for sure that it was from the vax or whatever, but he felt pretty confident and he was grateful that his kids didn't have to get it. So there is hope, and don't give up hope on this generation yet, because he was really like a woke person 2-3 years ago. And now all of a sudden he gets it. And this guy has got an IQ way higher, at least 30 points higher than mine. And he bought into it all, but no more.
Well, IQ was inversely related to attitude on vaccines here. So no surprise that you're the smartest kid in your family was the most pro-vaccine. But for two things about this. First, Kerry, congratulations. You have moved into the next stage of parenting where your kids come back and say, Dad, you were right.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting for that.
It's amazing how much, from the time I was 17 to the time I was 25, it was amazing how much my parents learned in 8 years.
Yeah. But the second thing I want to say about this is that a lot of kids now are they think what they think because they've never had to consider survival as a thing they had to actually go out and make happen. They've never had to deal with real hardship. And in the next few years, hardship is going to be our middle names. Things are going to be much, much tougher. And you won't see nearly as many kids with or obsessing about the ideas that they obsess about now, because they're going to be obsessing about, where's my next meal coming from? That's the major financial crises are not something you should look forward to, but that is the one upside, is that it educates ignorant people very quickly about the important things in life.
It's my next meal's coming from my food stamp allocation, of course, my EBT card. Food grows on EBT cards. Everyone knows that. So we'd be remiss. We were talking about RFK Jr. pre-call and Tucker Carlson, and the two of them kind of have like an alliance almost. Now Tucker Carlson stormed Twitter, and I think that's the death knell of Fox, because they're trying to say he breached his contract. They've already lost half their audience, 2/3 of the paying audience, 25 to 54. If they sue Tucker Carlson, how many people are going to be left watching this station?
Yeah, so this is a illustration of how big Tucker Carlson is. He posts a video on Twitter, okay, which isn't even a place where people normally post 10-minute videos. Oh. And it's what is it now, 70 million views or something like that, something that dwarfs MSNBC, CNN, and Fox did not have 1/10 combined, didn't have 1/10 of Tucker Carlson's viewership from a Twitter video. Yeah. And
for the week.
The funniest part of this is you know who Taylor Lorenz is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Worst human being on earth. But anyhow, she posted a thing about how, this shows how he's never going to make it, and he looks so out of place, and that's a chintzy video, and he's not going to get viewers on Twitter, and she posted that kind of quickly, and now that it's up to 70 million, I don't think she's going to be revisiting that subject. Yeah.
Dumbest person in the world. So Tucker's got the media industrial complex spooked. And look, I could go into a whole thing about restrictive covenants in New York. I had 4 cases in my illustrious legal career, and I lost every single one of them, even though I was right on the law. I lost every single one. The only time I won was when they stole customer lists. There's no way to stop him, even though they're saying, well, we're paying you $25 million not to compete with us. Technically, under New York law, that will work, except that when you go to the court and he says, well, I don't want the $25 million, I just want to talk, that's going to be the end of that. They can't win the case. It will just damage the brand even worse. But just like Tucker's got the media industrial complex on the balls of their heels, RFK has got the Dems spooked and on the balls of their you-know-what.
Okay, two things here. One is, do you think when they were writing Tucker Carlson's contract, if he'd said, you don't care if I post on Twitter once in a while, do you? They would have said, sure, we don't care, right? So there's no way his contract can actually cover or forbid Twitter posts, because that wouldn't have been considered competition for Fox News. No. All right, so he wins that. The non-compete thing with no trouble. And the other thing is, RFK Jr. turned out to be a serious political stud. He and Tucker Carlson must never ride in the same car now.
Or fly on the same plane.
On the fly on the same plane.
The same plane.
The deep state will they'll see that as a twofer. Where we only have to blow up one vehicle to kill both of these guys. They'll go for it just reflexively, because they don't get many twofers, I'm sure.
Not that easy. Look, they don't really they only terminate with extreme prejudice when they have to. They rely on the media to do the character assassination, which in this day and age is generally enough, except that everything bad about this guy has already come out. I mean, there's like files, and I know some of it personally, having lived in the same area as him for a number of years, him and his sister and Andy Cuomo, like, forget it. Like, the guy's bulletproof. I don't think any moral or ethical quandary ever enters into why somebody votes for Kennedy.
Yeah, well, and I think Trump kind of softened us up for stuff like that too.
Yes.
I mean, anything that somebody's done now, you immediately go, but didn't Trump do even worse? And he was president, and then that's the end of the discussion there, but you're right. With the Kennedy, you get good and bad with the Kennedy. You get the name recognition that guarantees you 10% right off the bat in any Democrat election. But you also get the assumption of horrendous moral deficiency, right? We just assume Kennedys are terrible people in real life. So, yeah.
And never disappointed either. Right?
Not so far.
Never disappointed. Hey, and just to thread the needle here, they both said that a certain 3-letter agency was responsible for the assassination of RFK's uncle. They both said it, like, definitively, like, based on, experience, fact, and all that. So right there, it marks the two of them as an existential threat.
That's true.
That are really running things, John.
The CIA can never allow somebody to become president whose relatives they've killed, right? Because then the president will dig into their dirty. Oh yeah, that's true. They can never let this happen. Boy, JFK is brave, or RFK is brave.
I think he's more crazy than brave, but that's my personal opinion. Hey,
well, in the military,
president, right? You got to be a sociopath to want to be president. Isn't that a requirement?
That's true. That is kind of an assumption that you're at least a narcissist if you're running for president. But self-destructive. You got to call it self-destructive if you're reasonably sure that the CIA will kill you if you get close to the presidency and you try for it anyhow.
That's great. Well, hey, to the censors there, hey, we're just exercising opinion, not fact, and all that good stuff. Well, I think we'll leave it at that, John. Hey, make sure you go over to John's Substack, rubino.substack.com. Sign up, subscribe to his Substack. And questions, comments, kl@kerrylutz.com. We'll answer as quick as we can. Write your YouTube comments below. John, we'll see you in a week and a half.
Thanks, Kerry. See ya.